I declare that the 501st Convocation of McMaster University for the conferring of degrees is now in session.
Please be seated. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Peter Smith, Acting Provost and Vice President Academic of the university. This afternoon, I have the great pleasure of acting as your Master of Ceremonies and welcoming you all to Convocation ceremonies. Before we start a formal program, may I first ask everyone in the hall to switch off any electronic device that may ring or beep during the ceremony. I will now call upon our Chancellor, Dr. Linton Wilson, to make his own welcoming remarks.
Good afternoon, a very good afternoon to you all. President and Vice Chancellor, Provost, our honorary graduate, members of the platform party, graduands, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this 501st Convocation of McMaster University. To our graduands, congratulations on your successes, on reaching an important milestone, an exciting milestone in your lives. Many of you will begin careers, embarking on new journeys. Some of you will be continuing your education, training, or preparation for more advanced or specialized activities. Best of luck to each and every one of you. To the parents, grandparents, family members, spouses, and friends here today, I invite you to take a bow as well. You can be proud of the roles you've played in the accomplishments being recognized in this convocation. To our faculty and staff, today marks tangible recognition of your efforts, particularly the successes of your students evident in this ceremony. Thank you and congratulations. This is a day of celebration. I wish you all an enjoyable afternoon. Thank you.
I would like now to introduce Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor, who will be presenting our honorary degree recipient.
Mr. Chancellor, by the authority of the Senate of McMaster University, I have the honor to present A.A. Bronson. A.A. Bronson's business card says he is a healer, and perhaps that simple description is the most appropriate and concise because he is also an artist, activist, teacher, publisher, leader, prankster, and icon. In the 1960s, Bronson left university with a group of friends to found a free school, a commune, and an underground newspaper. In 1969, he formed the artists group General Idea with Felix Parts and Jorge Zontal. For the next 25 years, the three partners lived and worked together to produce living, experimental, and visionary artwork undertaking more than 100 solo exhibitions and countless group shows and temporary public art projects. They were known for the magazine File, which the group published from 1972 to 1989. File was a standard-bearer for punk, queer theory, and AIDS activism, and provided a key vehicle in the work General Idea did to make challenging art accessible. General Idea founded in 1974 Art Metropole Toronto, a distribution center and archive for artists' books, audio, video, and multiples, which the partners conceived as the shop and archive for their Meta-Museum Gesamtkunstwerk, the 1984 Miss General Idea Pavilion. From 1987 through to 1994, Bronson and his partners focused on the subject of AIDS, becoming early artist activists for the cause and inspiring others to understand and fight the disease while understanding and supporting the people affected by it. They were among the first to give the disease a voice in counterpoint to the fear and ignorance that were widespread during the early history of AIDS/HIV. General Idea worked on the first ever fundraise for the American Foundation for AIDS Research in 1986, and in response, Bronson and his partners created the now iconic AIDS logo, which appropriates Robert Indiana's legendary love insignia, literally substituting the word AIDS for love. Following the death of his partners in 1994, Bronson turned his attention to the subjects of death, grieving, and healing, and he has continued to remain both prolific and highly respected as both a solo artist and working in new collaborations. His art, in fact, the way he lives his life, has manipulated our perception of fame, of celebrity, and hype. His art has been exhibited and celebrated in many of the most respected galleries and museums in the world. Last year, the Art Gallery of Ontario, in collaboration with the Museum of Modern Art in Paris, presented Haute Culture, General Idea, a 25-year retrospective of the group's work, and in 2003, in what is surely the highlight of Bronson's career, a collection of the work of General Idea was featured at the McMaster Museum of Art. From 2004 to 2010, Bronson was the director of Printed Matter, Inc. He also founded the annual New York Art Book Fair in 2005 and still directs it today. He is currently the artistic director and the founder of the Institute for Art, Religion, and Social Justice at Union Theological Seminary. Bronson has participated on the boards of several organizations and has held a number of academic appointments at universities in North America and in Europe. His awards include honorary degrees from NSCAD, the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design University, in 2007, and Concordia University in 2009. In 2008, he was named an Officer of the Order of Canada, and in 2011, he was named a Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters by the French government. He received the Governor General's Award for Visual and Media Arts in 2002. Mr. Chancellor, Bronson is an original. He is one of Canada's most internationally recognized artists, and he is a trailblazer who has both helped us understand and recreate our society. I present him to you today, Mr. Chancellor, so that you may confer upon him the degree Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
A. Bronson, by the authority of McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to confer upon you the degree Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, in McMaster University, with all the rights and privileges pertaining to that degree. Congratulations. Please sign the book. Dr. Bronson, may I now invite you to address the convocation. Dr. Bronson.
Mr. Chancellor, Mr. President, graduates, distinguished guests, friends. Mr. President, thank you for your generous introduction. I have been puzzling for several weeks over what to say here today, and in fact, just yesterday, I tore up my entire speech and started over again. I'm lucky to be the kind of person who's always trying to figure out what they're going to be when they grow up. In the 60s, as you've heard, I dropped out of the architecture school at the University of Manitoba with a group of friends, like-minded friends. All the best people of my generation, by the way, were dropouts. And we established a commune, a free school, and an underground newspaper. That was my first experience with founding an institution and undertaking independent publishing. I guess that I was interested in self-determination. I didn't want to work in an office, I didn't want to follow orders, and I didn't want to live out someone else's idea of who I should be. As Michel Foucault has put it, and I quote, "From one's own life, one can make a work of art." I had always wanted to be an artist, but now I realized my life could be the work of art. In 1967, the summer of love, I moved to Toronto. It wasn't long before I met my friends Felix and Jorge. We moved in together, and we invented General Idea. We were a kind of mini commune. For 25 years, we drank coffee, laughed a lot, fought a lot, and made art. We made exhibitions in Italy, Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, the Netherlands, and France. We met the most interesting people, from Andy Warhol to the Dalai Lama. We took pleasure in life. We rejected the Victorian notion of proper behavior, and we embraced the healing potential of free expression, of pleasure, of love. In 1986, I turned 40, and everything changed. We moved to New York City, and we exhibited, as you've heard, in the first fundraiser for the American Foundation for AIDS Research, a 6-foot square painting of an AIDS logo in the form of Robert Indiana's love painting from the 60s. Our best friend contracted AIDS. His parents in Ottawa announced that for them, Robert was already dead. And in fact, he did die in St. Vincent's Hospital, a few doors from where we lived, just a year later. In the next 7 years, we undertook more than 65 public art projects in North America and Europe on the theme of AIDS. AIDS posters on the street, rear-illuminated AIDS signs, and AIDS animation in Times Square, AIDS posters in the New York subway system. It was a kind of, it was a campaign for a disease that didn't like to be spoken out loud. In 1989, Felix was diagnosed with AIDS. In 1990, Jorge was diagnosed too. We knew what that meant. It meant they were going to die. We returned to Toronto for our wonderful Canadian healthcare system. For our last year together, we plotted countless projects on the theme of AIDS for exhibitions across Europe and North America. We were busier than we had ever been. Felix and Jorge were both able to work at home until just before their deaths. Jorge died on February 3rd, 1994. Felix followed 5 months later on June 5th. By 1995, my generation had been decimated. Think of the talents who are no longer with us, not only Jorge and Felix, and Toronto artists like David Buchan and Robert Flack, not only celebrities like Rudolf Nureyev, Liberace, and Rock Hudson, but also Alvin Ailey, Michel Foucault, Felix Gonzalez-Torres, Halston, Keith Haring, Peter Hujar, Derek Jarman, Robert Mapplethorpe, Klaus Nomi, Herb Ritz, Arthur Russell, Jack Smith, David Wojnarowicz. What would our culture be today if they were still alive? My generation set out to change the world, to invent a new world. What happened to that new world? What happened to pleasure, for example, and especially sexual pleasure? We lived our lives in the 70s with fearlessness, but now what surrounds us? What surrounds us here in Canada and the US? A pervasive fear, fear of terrorism, fear of immigrants, fear of sex, fear of infection, fear of difference, fear of anything not bound by rigorous rules and codes and by the status quo. We live in a culture of white supremacism. We pretend that everything is okay, but it is not. My most recent invention is the Institute for Art, Religion, and Social Justice. It brings contemporary artists into the world of religion. Our idea is to heal the schism between art and religion. At this time, we need a massive healing of our culture. I remember the day that the Berlin Wall fell in 1989. And you know, the Berlin Wall fell because normal people had had enough. They had had enough, and the wall fell. The dead of my generation have had enough. As a survivor, I speak for them. I speak for my generation. We are the living, and we are the dead, and we have had enough. I'm looking to you, the graduates today, to democratize our world. There are Occupy groups in over 600 cities in North America, including Occupy Hamilton. Young people dominated the Arab Spring. The Red Square movement in Quebec began as a student movement. You, your generation, have an intense desire for justice, for equality. I thank McMaster for this honorary Doctor of Letters, and I dedicate it to the future of the students graduating here today.
The audience here has spoken, Dr. Bronson. Thank you very much for your heartfelt and inspirational comments. I know that the graduates will leave here with something that they didn't come with. Thank you again for your remarks.
Dr. Patrick Dean will now come forward to present the graduands to our Chancellor for admission to their degrees.
Will the graduands please stand? Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, I present to you these candidates in order that you may confer the appropriate degrees upon them, and I bear witness that they are worthy and suitable.
Graduands, by my authority and that of the McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to admit you to your individual degrees in McMaster University with all of the rights and privileges pertaining to those degrees. My sincere congratulations to you all.
Please be seated. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, may I also request that you confer the appropriate degrees in absentia upon all those candidates who have successfully completed the required course of study, but who are not present.
I declare all these degrees conferred in absentia.
Graduates, I now ask each of you to join me on stage so that the Chancellor and I may welcome you into the McMaster community of scholars.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would be appreciated if during the presentation of the graduands, you would hold your applause to the end of each degree category. Thank you. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Doctor of Philosophy. Wafa Hassan. Paul Hemrich Hubener. Evan Moreau. Alison Laurie McCready. Idang Trong. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Arts. Matthew Gaster. Callie Petropoulos. Francine Phillips Sheldon.
Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Arts Honors. Sherry Lynn Arts. Laura Suzanne Abbott. Travis Adam. Hina Bashir Ahmed. Elena Catherine Loretta Almas. Sarah Vieira Alves. Andrea Amatiello. Matthew Andaloro. Felicia Anderson. Zane Lloyd Andress. Emily Jean Andress. Leanna Arif. Kristen Jean Atwood. Heather Augustin. Megan Eyre. Amanda Marie Bachega. Andrew Baker. Devon Elizabeth Balkane. Danielle Kathleen Baliche. Melissa Hannah Boss. Veronica Bebiak. Brigitte Bélanger. Stephanie Belfiore. Katrina Marie Bell. Katarina Benusova. Anthony Joseph Berardo. Mary Elizabeth Bettiol. And Erin Sonia Bienert. Jessica Monique Bigda. Christina Billich. Cameron Billiard. Jenna Lee Bird. Daryl Alexander Christopher Blackburn. Matthew Paul Buccia. Gordon William Bond. Bryden Teal Booth. Aaron Bartolin. Jameson David Bowman. Nina Bozzo. Oleg Bernatsky. Julie Buffett. Eric James Brandt. Brianna Bush. Julie Brianne Bushy. Mark Adrian Calcagni. Stephanie Callan. Joshua Carey. Daniela Carlucci. Chris Carrington Phillips. Stephanie Lee Caruth. Clara Chan. Zoe Christmas. Martin Sigelnecki. Sabrina Lise Chino. Troy Clough. Jessica Marie Cobden. Victoria Colusi. Siobhan Elise Koo. Jeff Costigan. Lucia Crespo. Samantha Marie Curtin. Danielle Alicia D'Amato. Michael Daniel DeSanzo. Michelle Rita Dascenzo. Sarah Dowd. Amanda Danielle De Souza. Erica Deffett. Julia Maria Del Dio. Ayoyinka Elizabeth De Lumo. Brittany Ashley Denham. Jamie Lee Christina Denton. Samantha Monique Devota. Anne-Marie Susan Di Bartolomeo. Anthony Michael DiNardo. Nicole Elise Doro. John Jerome Doyle Razo. Amanda Rachel Dudnick. David Elhard. Melissa Dawn Elhard. Hala Eltam. Christopher Edward Roger Earl. Rhiannon Janice Evans. Maggie Fair. Kate Olivia Feather. Daniel Joseph Furr. Ashley Fight. Kareem Anthony Giassi Ferreira. Natasha Fieger. Joseph Finkel. Miles John Fisher. Aaron Hope Fitzgerald. Dustin James Fitzpatrick. Catherine Flores. Haley Fox. Anne Elizabeth Fraser. Fiona Freemark. Callie Emma Furlerton. Leslie Furness. Deon Gacic. John Henry Gagan. Catherine Nicole George. Danielle Mary Gibbons. Reginald Gilmore. Sandra Christine Giroir. Olivia Rachel Gissing. Christina Evelyn Glass. Austin James Gourlay. Amanda Damara Graham. Sarah Granger. Courtney Ashley Sheila Grotage. Danielle Gunn. Matthew Kinke Ha. Natalia Halenyuk. Sarah Harney. Lynn Harris. Corbin Darrell Hartwick. Rachel Harvey. Alexa Hazel. Maggie Huang. Stephanie Ann Hooksra. Megan Alice Holbrook. Drew Hollander. Megan Louise Holliday. Bradley Michael Graydon Horde. Jocelyn Nicole Horn. Robert Chu Shan Huang. Christina Marie Iavarone. Emily Florence Imbrogno. Shannon Jennifer Jameson. Veronica Gardina Jeffries. Yomi John John. Laura Catherine Johns. Amanda Danielle Johnson. Chelsea Tyler Johnson. Emily Johnson. Matthew Joniak. Aaron Ju. Michael John Josie. Julie Rita Connert. Morgan Boris Edward Kamotsky Alabi. Christopher Jack Ryan Keddy. Diana Kintenko. Gresham Toby Kim. Olivia King. David Alexander Colin Kingston. Katarina Nezovic. Benjamin Koster. Jonathan Kovacs. Valerie Kozina. Matthew David Crick. Tanya Kuzman. Lisa La Rocca. Renée Louise Labelle. Tony Lafleur. Alyssa Grace Lai. Paki Lam. Hannah Therese Lamb. Emily Elizabeth Lammers. Gerline Kerr Lamzar. Melissa Alice Lang. Melissa Latanzi. Claire Lauren Alina Laycock. Sherry Jean Levitt. Emily Christine Leduc. Manhao Kevin Lee. Ariel Leung. Angela Lee. Morgan Lynn. Devin Allison Lindsay. Heather May Linka. Mary Elizabeth McLeod. Michaela Danielle McPherson. Lisa Mayoko. Shada Mabub. Sophia Natasha Mengao. Dustin Paul Manley. Kayla Marcellini. Elise Danielle Marion. Ashley Ann Marshall. Ruth Massey. Diamanta Eleni Mastoras. Perry Maxwell. Candace Mary McCullum. Victoria McClure. Leslie Ann McGinnis. Amy Leanne McIntosh. Carol Eileen McLaren. Andrea Lynn McMenemy. Brian Mahey. Stacy Marie Mello. Melissa Elizabeth Mandler. Raylan Grace Mischuk. Suzanne Elizabeth Mitchell. Soren Julian Maitreya. Amanda Maria Monaco. Caitlin Marie Moniz. Melissa Elizabeth Morlachetti. Cassandra Lynn Morrissey. Mark Mueller. Tamara Alicia Mullet. Melinda Faye Munding. Laura Muraka. Jordan Lindsay Murray. Wid Nema. Frank Nosich. Samantha O'Connell. Andrew O'Connor. Chanel Adrian O'Malley. Emily Olmsted. Anisa Bibi Oziran. Boyan Ozimkovich. Ricardo Padilla. Nicole Pejak. Alla Pak. Philip Paparella. Katie Lynn Partito. Ashley Kathleen Louise Patton. Kayla Danielle Pegg. Andrew Michael Perkins. Lisa Jeanette Perlman. Melissa Ann Perna. Rebecca Peters. Emily Catherine Phillip. Danielle Nadine Pierre. Marie-Agnès Pilon. Teresa Marie Percio. Nicole Pikitli Chrysler. Glory Pizio. Tano Posteraro. Kavida Ramkisoon. Vanessa Raposo. Catherine Reinhardt. Jason Ribeiro. Nicole Ray Roger. Jordan Rogers. Carolyn Patricia Rothney. Stephanie Roos. Grace Christina Ryder. Sarah Sabri. Carolina Science. Pani Sarkis Michael. Annette Says. Laura Ann Shemich. Andrew Schneider. Justine Maria Sophia Schultz. Stefan Danielle William Senek. Brittany Lauren Sherwood. Thomas James Scheck. Kevin David Sims. Anupa Janet Simon. Kristen Sarah Skillen. Sarah Somani. Darshi Srirajan. Caroline Olivia Nambasa Samada. Sophia Stanidis. Joshua Starkey. Laura Stevens. Kasia Stollarts. Sarah Stratton. Hannah Elizabeth Sunderani. Natasha Ann Sustak. Natalie Deanna Timperio. Danielle Tinney. Alicia Marie Tukach. Chelsea Quinn Tobin. Madeline Hannah Trauman. Heather Michelle Tereski. Tanya Vinendal. Christine Marie Veenstra. Claire Elizabeth Roland. Sarah Elizabeth Vissers. Erin Justine Weir. Paul Weldon. Brandon Westman. Kim Wojcik. Andrew Chalmers Wood. Kara Yanofsky. Audrey Zanstra. Matthew Daniel Zimmerman. Paul Armando William Zoccolillo. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Music Honors. Randall Bunham. Emma Jennifer Borsellino. Alexandra J. Brewer. Samantha Lisa Crouch. Colin Nicholas Paul Eakles. Jacqueline Lorraine German. Jennifer McFarlane. Emily Ray Merritt. Jessica Lee Morrow. Hannah Catherine Pohl. Erin Christine Richard. Catherine Laurie Rutledge. Andrew Federico Salazar. Tyler Sirocchi. Paula Jean Thomas. Jody Yvonne Weber. Danica Winslow. Jennifer Marie Whitmer. Mark Zuccato.
Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Arts and Science Honors. Dana Oktimachuk. Sienna Ahmed. Lena Antunians. Abba Harish Atali. Neela Bazarakai. Jason Solomon Binder. Grace Bravo. Carla Evelyn Brown. David Alexander Campbell. Daniel Patrick Karens-Nadelsky. Caitlin Laura Helen Casson. Joanna Chan. Michael Chong. Samuel Colbert. Tristan Roger Coulterjohn. Harrison Cruikshank. Nia Deolani. Megan Joy Dertinger. Farhana Dosa. Christopher Ray Ferguson. Ariane Fleming. Alyssa Chelsea Harder. Sean Hardy. Jillian Sandra Ann Horning. Aaron Edward Hutchinson. Rachel Constance Hutchinson. Daphne Karen Jackson. Caroline Cassie. Leanna Gabrielle Katz. David Ernest William Coots. Olivia May Lee. Hannah Catherine Bird McKenzie. Oliver Mao. Jessica Marangos. Victoria Matrova. Nicole Janine Pote. Michelle Liss Reed. Marushka Rodriguez. Dana Catherine Taylor. Julia Anne Fortin-Berge. Ian Alexander Thompson. Yvonne Grace Tristani. Natasha Marie-Lise Turner. Jane Kira Vancouverden. Stephanie Ann Vanner. Laura Walton. Adira Kayla Weingust. Manosala Yoganathan.
Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Arts. Vanessa Adams. Michael Au. Céline Arsenault. Christina Catherine Baird. Stephanie Barron. Catherine Lenora Berger. Jason Solomon Binder. Bibi Amira Bolaki. Jamie Marie Boyce. Veronica Brazina. Justin Jonathan Bunting. Amanda Marie Cacagni. Natalie Queenie Carvajal Fung. Caroline Guy Wei Chung. Zoe Ann Clark. William Koch. Megan Patricia Conroy. Daniel Santidandrea. Elizabeth Rodriguez Dapont. Karina Marie DeYoung. Brittany Ducharme. Sarah Falia Marie Dussomme. Joseph Paul Eastwood. Hillary Rachel Edward. James Thomas Featherstone. Alexander David Ferry. Benjamin Foster. Jessica Lynn Fulton. Victoria Lynn Godette. Megan Graham. Allison Jade Greco. Jessica Halliday. Mary Jennifer Irvin. Catherine Janicki. Beatriz Cansayisa. Ian Lacorte. Sean Thomas Lee. Trevor Frank Doug Singh Ma. Allison Rose Mercer. Philip Carl Mildenberger. Brian Charles Mordeka. Ashley Elizabeth Muller. Mark John Panibianco. Daniel Perry. Justin Paul Cabral Pinto. Alexandra Jean Ramos. Rachel Ramos. Jessica Mariette Chotit. Roger Thomas Salars. Noreen Sidi. Monica Jones-Smith. Kyle Alexander Stafford. Brittany Triffs. Sarah Helen Elaine West. Brandon Wong. Keegan Wesley Woodworth. Tanya Rochelle Zidor. Ryan Zukiel.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce you to Ms. Tanya Kuzman, a graduate of the Bachelor of Arts Honors Program, who will be delivering the valedictory address.
Chancellor Wilson, President Dean, faculty members, fellow students, family, and friends, welcome. We never thought this day would come. But now that it's here, it gives me a heavy heart, because it means leaving so many people who have sculpted my life and my fellow students' lives prodigiously and forever. Leland Stanford, the founder of Stanford University, once said, "The imagination needs to be cultivated and developed to assure success in life. A man will not construct anything he cannot conceive." I have come to greatly value imagination. It is, at its most basic level, the uniquely human capability to conceptualize that which is not, and therefore the foundation of all innovation. In its most transformative capacity, it is the power that allows us to empathize with humans whose experiences we have not lived. Fellow graduates, we have been instructed in faculties designed to cultivate this ability. During my undergraduate career, I spent 3 years volunteering with Hamilton Legal Aid. I met individuals who were facing struggles I could barely fathom. I met a mother with 3 children living in public housing who, due to mental illness, had fallen behind in her rent, was facing eviction, and the breakup of her family. I met a young woman who recently immigrated to Canada, struggling in an abusive relationship while battling disability and a language barrier. And while every week I was baffled by stories of hardship, I took solace in the fact that an organization functioning on empathizing volunteers, our society was able to provide access to justice. We need the imaginative ability to put ourselves in the positions of people different from ourselves. Macro policy decisions can only be made correctly if we envision how they will impact a range of diverse groups. Yet many choose to close their minds to suffering that does not touch them personally. Perhaps they are afraid to imagine that under certain circumstances they too could become jobless or impoverished, mentally or physically challenged. But choosing to live in confined spaces leads to a kind of mental immobility, and that elicits its own turmoil. The question is, how much more are you, McMaster graduates of 2012, likely to impact the lives of other people? Your education and capacity for hard work give you unique status and obligations. The way you exist, the way you vote, and the expectations you have of your government has an impact both within and far beyond your communities. If you choose to associate not just with the powerful, but the powerless, then it may not only be your friends and family who honor your education, but all people whose reality you change because you ventured to imagine better. This year, our very own President Dean dared to imagine a better educational institution. He released a letter entitled Forward with Integrity, which has propelled the unification of students, community, and university in such a way that I truly believe will secure a spectacular future for all involved. Of course, behind every great faculty, there is a great dean. Douglas MacArthur once said, "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. She is a leader by the equality of her actions and the integrity of her intent." No quote better summarizes the leadership of our dean, Dr. Crosta. Partnered with our associate dean, Dr. Cyril Giroux, I don't know that I have ever met such vigilant advocates for the Faculty of Humanities. My last thought is this, and it's rather simple. We cannot solve local or global issues alone. As you navigate through the rest of your lives, be open to collaboration. Not one of us is here today because we did it by ourselves. And while I leaned on many people throughout my undergrad, certain individuals emerged as major influences. David Moore was one of them. Mr. Moore's encouragement and advice enriched my student government experience and, by extension, my passion for advocacy. The second is Dr. Tracy MacDonald. Dr. McDonald taught me that teaching and learning is about asking really good questions and about challenging the intellect to secure multifaceted answers. In a society where women still face the glass ceiling, she emerged as a strong female role model who I consistently looked up to. I thank her for her support and for teaching me how to balance my idealism with the realisms of the world. The third is Dr. Greg Flynn. I owe Dr. Flynn a great deal. His fervent teachings transformed my entire approach to learning, and he instilled in me the confidence necessary to dispel my fears of taking new and innovative academic leaps. Through class experience and unvarnished discussions, he inspired me to strive for excellence in everything that I have embarked upon. He is a professor who is unduplicated, and I will always be grateful to him for his guidance, support, and his faith in me. Last, but certainly not least, my ultimate inspiration comes from my best friend, the woman from whom I received my passion and my integrity, Susan Kuzman. My mother never gave me any idea that I couldn't be whomever I wanted to be. She wrapped my brother and I in love and filled our home with books and music, unfailing in her efforts to give me role models, from Nikola Tesla to Pierre Trudeau to Coco Chanel. She has been the indestructible compass that kept me out of the dark and on the right path. Thank you, Mom. Class of 2012, we did it. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dean Suzanne Crosta from the Faculty of Humanities, and I would like to draw your attention to the awards of session won by the students of the Faculty of Humanities and Arts and Science programs, which are listed on page 12 and 13 of your program. Thank you.
May I again call upon our President, Dr. Patrick Dean, who will present the President's Awards of Excellence in Student Leadership.
Thank you very much. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Tanya for an amazing talk, and on behalf of all the parents in the room, to thank you for bringing us all to tears. While I'm on the subject of Tanya, the first recipient of the President's Award of Excellence in Student Leadership, Tanya Kuzman. Tanya Kuzman has contributed to her communities, both on the McMaster campus and off, in diverse ways throughout her student career. For 2 years, she represented her fellow humanities undergraduates as a member of the Student Representative Assembly, serving on the SRA committees for teaching awards, bylaws and procedures, external affairs, university affairs, and valedictorian selection. She created the Humanities Holler monthly student newsletter and was appointed University Affairs Commissioner. In that position, Tanya implemented a number of key initiatives, including a quality of education assessment, a student life survey, and enhanced use of social media and campus radio. Tanya's interest in public affairs led her into significant roles with the McMaster Young Liberals, where she served as Vice President, Policy Analysis, and with the McMaster Canadian International Council, where she was Vice President, City Relations. She was the Vice President, Communications for the McMaster Pre-Law Society and represented McMaster at the Model United Nations at the University of Toronto. She was also a McMaster delegate at the DECA U Provincial Business Competition. And since January, she has been a member of the Forward with Integrity Student Experience Task Force. As a history and political science student with a minor in theatre, Tanya was the artistic director for the McMaster Summer Performance Festival, for which she wrote and directed an original piece called States of Cleanliness. She was the promotions coordinator and then hiring manager for the McMaster Thespian Company. Off campus, Tanya has been an active volunteer for both Habitat for Humanity and Hamilton Legal Aid. Warmest congratulations, Tanya. Fantastic. And the second recipient, Natasha Turner. Would Natasha please come up? A three-year member of the Dean's Honor List, the list of Marauder Scholars, and the CIS Scholar Roll, Natasha Turner's student career combines academic and athletic excellence with a strong commitment to her community and to her fellow students. Natasha was the captain of the McMaster women's rugby team for 2 years, the team's most valuable player in 2010, and a CIS All-Canadian in 2010 and 2011. She was also a four-time OUA All-Star, the OUA Russell Division MVP in 2010, and a CIS Tournament All-Star in 2011. Natasha's success on the rugby field has extended beyond the McMaster uniform as well. She was a member of the under-20 Canadian national rugby team, and she is currently a member of the senior Ontario women's rugby team and is longlisted for the Canadian senior women's team. A member of the Arts and Science Vision Committee and a participant in the program's Big Sib, Little Sib mentoring initiative, Natasha has also made significant contributions to her fellow students through her leadership in outdoor activities and education. She was the environmental coordinator and then president of the McMaster Outdoor Club. She was the altitude lead staff for 2 years, and she organized the biannual Coots cleanup in 2009 to 2010. Natasha has earned a number of awards, including the Ronald V. Joyce Award for Athletes in both 2009 and 2010, and the Mary E. Keyes Award for combining outstanding academic and athletic achievement in 2011. Warmest congratulations, Natasha. Fantastic. What a record.
Thank you.
There you go. Well done, Natasha. And our third recipient of the President's Award for Excellence in Student Leadership, Joseph Finkel. Joe, please come up. There you go. Joseph Finkel's engagement as a student began where the student experience begins, in Welcome Week. Joe was a Welcome Week representative for 4 years and a residence-wide representative for 3. He was part of the MSU Maroons in 2010. With that involvement as a foundation, Joe's fellow humanities students elected him to the MSU Student Representative Assembly in 2009 and then re-elected him in 2010. One of his priorities in that office was to help connect McMaster students to their surrounding community. So he implemented the Get Culture McMaster program that encouraged students to become involved with local museums and other attractions. He also developed the Your City survey, the results of which were presented to Hamilton City Council. And he served as the MSU External Affairs Subcommittee Chair for Community Relations. In 2010, Joe became the MSU's Vice President Education, a position that allowed him to make contributions like establishing a partnership between the MSU and Canadian Blood Services, playing a significant role in attracting funds to the new arts building, solidifying the MSU's involvement with the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations, and authoring an influential paper on ancillary fees. Results like these helped Joe win the Rudy Heinzel Award of Excellence for an outstanding one-year contribution to McMaster students. Earlier in his student career, he had also received the MSU Volunteer Recognition Award. Joe maintains a keen focus on the broader student leadership movement as well, and he has served as the recording secretary for the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations and was part of the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance campus team. Joe, our warmest congratulations.
May I introduce you to Mr. David Adams, a representative of the McMaster Alumni Association. David will now deliver the Alumni Association address.
Chancellor Wilson, President Dean, Dr. Bronson, Provost Smith, McMaster faculty, fellow alumni, honored guests, and members of the McMaster class of 2012. I'm David Adams and a past president of the McMaster Alumni Association. Over the course of its 125-year history, our university has granted degrees at convocation ceremonies in Toronto, on the McMaster campus in Hamilton, and more recently, here at Hamilton Place. Our chancellors have shaken hands with graduates during Queen Victoria's reign, the Great Depression, the World Wars, and the Internet age. McMaster students have become McMaster alumni in eras and circumstances that have seemed unconnected to those before and after. Fashions, attitudes, learning styles, tuition fees, and cafeteria food, everything has changed. But regardless of era, those alumni, we all share a place in the McMaster family. We are connected from year to year, from decade to decade, from generation to generation, McMaster classes one and all. Each and every McMaster class is unique and, in truth, shares only two things with all others. The first is the great potential you have as new graduates of one of the truly great universities in the world. The second is that we all share a history with McMaster, a familial connection and a responsibility to it and to each other to build on the legacy we inherited and to continue McMaster's story of excellence. Playing a role in extending that legacy is easier than it sounds. The most important thing you can do is contribute. Contribute to your professions, your avocations, your communities, and to your families. Your achievements add shine to my degree and to the degrees of everyone wearing a graduation gown today. The other thing you can do is stay engaged. That's why the McMaster Alumni Association is here. You have in your hands our convocation booklet that describes our programs and the opportunities you have to stay connected with McMaster and your fellow Mac grads. You can be part of Mac 10, a comprehensive new program designed to meet the professional, social, and intellectual needs of graduates of the last decade. Mac 10 offers events, career services, mentorships, online resources, and other ways to connect. Watch for the Alumni magazine, the McMaster Times, in your mailbox, or stay tuned for the launch of our new online community this fall. Follow the association on email, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Access value-added services like home, auto, and life insurance. Trust me, you'll need those. Join your fellow alumni at one of the hundreds of events we organize annually in Hamilton, Hong Kong, Halifax, and a bunch of other places that don't start with the letter H. There is a place for all of you in the McMaster Alumni Association. But today we celebrate your success as students and toast the promise of your bright futures as alumni. Your fellow Mac grads are proud of you already. We offer you our most sincere congratulations and a very warm welcome to the McMaster alumni family, a family 125 years in the making. Congratulations.
May I invite Dr. Dean back to the podium to deliver his President's Address.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here with you all to celebrate this very, very significant moment in the lives of our graduating students. And there can be no places in which it is more safe to begin with a quote than at a humanities convocation. So I will do so. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive. If you know the source of the quote, don't say it. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive. This was, in fact, the title of an album released by the ambient trip-hop duo Arms and Sleepers in 2006. About the same time most of you were just beginning to contemplate which university you would choose, which program of study might suit you, and what career option might best satisfy your talents, your temperament, and your inclinations. Now, today I would expect that at least some of you, and certainly a good number of your parents and supporters, will be looking back at that time of choice and marveling at the distance you have traveled since then. Now, as you sat there back then, weighing up one university prospectus against the other, good sense against the pressure of your peers, fear of the unknown against the desire for adventure, I'm not sure you would have said then that you were in a state of bliss. Such discussions with my own children were, as I recall, somewhat tense and ended not infrequently with books being slammed shut and the following exclamation, "Yes, Dad, but whose life is it anyway?" But to be poised at the opening of a new phase in your life, to have at least some choices about how that phase will be constituted, to be able to dream of your future without fearing that you'll be proven naive for thinking that you have one, this is an experience of privilege. And despite all the superficial anguish, I know you will today recall the pregnant quality, the powerful promise of that moment back then. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive. Now, those of you who know their literature and whose tastes don't incline to ambient trip-hop music are by now desperate to point out to me that the actual source for this quotation is the English Romantic poet William Wordsworth. In the 10th book of whose long poem, The Prelude, the poet remembers the excitement he felt in France arriving there in 1790, 1 year after the storming of the Bastille and the start of the French Revolution. The lines are very famous. I'm going to read them to you. "Oh, pleasant exercise of hope and joy, for great were the auxiliaries which then stood upon our side, we who were strong in love. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be young was very heaven." Now, I've chosen this as the text for my remarks today, certainly because you are on the whole young, though not exclusively, and also gathered here today in a differently pleasant exercise of hope and joy, this ceremony of graduation. But there's a good deal more to the parallel than this. Wordsworth's lines evoke a powerful sense of community. Remember how he puts it, "Our side is strong in love." A powerful sense of community confronting, even instigating, a far-reaching and radical human transformation. What invigorates him is the prospect of doing something great for humanity, and moreover, doing it in partnership with others. Indeed, that sense of the importance of community bears not only on the process by which change will come, but also on the goal towards which the revolutionaries aspire. And that goal is a new human dispensation, a society which is not just an agglomeration of individuals, but an organism strong in love. It may be true that in every age the young feel this need for a fundamental reconsideration and reconfiguration of the human order. But there are compelling reasons, as Dr. Bronson pointed out earlier on, to regard the present as an age of revolution every bit as critical as that which began with the American Revolution in the last quarter of the 18th century, which included the French Revolution, about which Wordsworth wrote, and continued for approximately 75 years. Now, that term, quiet revolution, has a particular application to Canadian politics, you'll all know, particularly to the transformation of Quebec in the 1960s. But it is obviously relevant to the kind of dramatic and far-reaching shift in economic and social relationships that is apparently underway on the world stage as we sit here. I was recently in Brazil as part of the Governor General's educational mission to that country. And in one of our many meetings with Brazilian government and university officials, I was struck powerfully by the curious mixture of assurance and abjection or deference that defined our Canadian position. We were assured in assuming that we had advantages our Brazilian colleagues might want, a mature and world-class university system, for example. But we were abject or deferential in our awareness that this advantage is unlikely to continue for much longer, that very shortly the tables will be turned and institutions in countries like our own will depend for their survival on their ability to adapt to a new world order, one in which they are not dominant. About a month earlier, I was present when a similar scene played itself out in England, where I was attending the British Council's annual conference on global higher education. At the opening event, a member of the British Cabinet addressed the approximately 1,400 delegates who had come to London from 120 countries around the world. Peculiarly oblivious to the reality that he was addressing representatives from the very market that he wished to exploit, he spoke at some length about the need to cultivate and sell abroad what he called the British brand in higher education. The ironies attending his talk were profound and I imagine not lost on many delegates from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the BRICS countries as they have come to be known. Such nations in the so-called developing world, having shaken off political subservience and begun to realize their economic potential, are being invited back into relationship with their previous political and economic masters in a new role as customers increasingly vital to the economies of those formerly dominant states. Assurance and abjection, again, in that British cabinet minister as in our delegation in Brazil. These are the symptoms of a quiet revolution that is underway across the globe, realigning power and wealth, problematizing relationships that have seemed settled since the 18th and 19th centuries, challenging the hegemony of received ideas of what one might call normative Europeanness, and making it certain that the new world coming will not be predictable on the basis of the old. What fuels my own sense of bliss at this moment is the feeling developed over the last few decades, working with students in a number of Canadian universities, and particularly strong since my coming to McMaster, is that many of you are open to an active engagement with the globe, not only as it is right now, but also as it is in the process of becoming. Indeed, many of you have sought an active role in addressing suffering, violence, and inhumanity across the world and in your own backyards. And we should be very proud of this, of the way in which what one might call a without borders sensibility has taken hold in your generation and given life to formal initiatives aimed at serving the world and its needs in difficult times. The most influential model for these, Doctors Without Borders, has a strong McMaster connection, as many of you know. Dr. James Orbinski, who was president of Doctors Without Borders when the organization received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1999, had been a medical student at this university. Dr. Orbinski is also connected with another organization that is very strong at McMaster, and this is Engineers Without Borders. As an institution, we have a long and a distinguished history of high-quality engagement with global problems. And as many of you know, our Faculty of Social Science is host to the McMaster Institute on Globalization and the Human Condition, established in 1998 to study globalizing processes and the way in which these bear upon our lives, our communities, and on our environment. In the Faculty of Humanities, which is no less firmly stitched into this trend, we have a combined honors program and minor in peace studies, an offshoot of the Center for Peace Studies, which came into being during the period of the Cold War, when scholars became concerned about the prospects for human survival. And today, the center concerns itself with war and peace, violence and nonviolence, conflict and conflict transformation. And arching over these and many other globally oriented activities at McMaster is our institutional membership in United Nations Academic Impact, which commits us to the practice of higher education and research in support of the global good. Several years ago, we dedicated ourselves through education to the realization of the Millennium Goals of the United Nations. Today, all the talk is of internationalizing higher education. This is one of the stated aims of our provincial government, our federal government, and of governments as well as educational institutions around the world. I'm fond of noting that in a recent survey conducted by the International Association of Universities, 87% of institutions reported that they include internationalization in their mission statement or in their strategic plan. And depending where you're situated on the globe, there are varying degrees of consensus on this issue. From what I told you about the Governor General's mission to Brazil, which was preceded several months earlier by a similar mission led by the Prime Minister, it is clear that the Canadian consensus on this matter is very strong. Our future lies in our international commerce, particularly in the knowledge-based industries of which presumably higher education is one. But it is interesting to note that there's far less commitment to the idea of internationalization, in higher education at least, in countries of the Middle East, Latin America, and the Caribbean, for example. My stories about Brazil and the British Conference provide a clue as to why this is the case. The fact is simply that for countries like our own, and even more so for Britain and the European nations, successfully finding new markets for educational brands, to use that cabinet minister's language, is a matter of survival. For the BRICS group, in contrast, partnership with mature nations and institutions helps to speed up a process of national development, which would likely occur without those partnerships, if perhaps a little more slowly. What has become essential for some nations is merely convenient for others. I say all of this to indicate that while I could not be more encouraging, supportive, and admiring of your every move to be a force for global change, it is important that you not be so transported by the promise of this moment, by the exhilaration of being, as Wordsworth says, strong in love with your global brothers and sisters, that you fail to notice that your own interests may be different from theirs. In the face of so much global suffering, it is tempting to come bearing the gift of answers rather than the more valuable gift of questions. It is tempting to be assured rather than abject in your approach to others. And more problematically even, you can find yourself engaged in remaking the other in your own image, failing to understand unfamiliar cultures, economies, and nations in terms other than a lack of what is valued and celebrated in your own paradigms. And here I take you back to Tanya's point about the imagination in its role of building empathy. To speak only of internationalizing higher education, what progress does it represent if we fail to do anything but strengthen the normalizing claims of Western rationality as a way of interpreting and of regulating others? I remember not so long ago when one first began to hear talk of an emerging knowledge economy. And today, of course, that discourse dominates our understanding of global commerce and culture. Relevant though it is at some level, one has to wonder about the extent to which our proselytizing of that orthodoxy helps or hinders the growth and prosperity of peoples in other parts of the world. One gratifying outcome of the trip to Brazil is confirmation that 12,000 Brazilian students will come to Canadian universities as part of their own government's Science Without Borders program. Science Without Borders is an international education initiative of extraordinary magnitude. It will provide scholarships to 100,000 Brazilian students, largely but not exclusively in the science and technology. There is room for the social sciences and humanities in this scheme, to pursue their studies at the best universities around the world. And because of its size, the program will have a major impact, not just on Brazil itself and its economic growth, but on universities in all those countries fortunate enough to host scholarship students. For us in Canada and here at McMaster, there is the potential for self-renewal and development, as our own paradigms and assumptions are challenged by the presence among us of outstanding students from Brazil. That must be the foundation of our engagement with the future and the globalized condition from which that future is inseparable. Traffic across borders must flow in both directions, as must the benefits of engagement. Without that, a new world community, strong in love, as Wordsworth puts it, will be an illusion, and the expectant bliss of our present moment will go unfulfilled. To all of you, our own scholars and graduates without borders, my warmest best wishes for the lives and careers you will make in the strange and unfamiliar territory that begins at the doors of this building. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Dean, for those wise, thoughtful, inspirational remarks, and very timely in terms of the audience here today. I realize that I'm all that stands between you and some refreshments and celebration here today, and I don't want to delay that unduly, but let me hasten to congratulate all of you for your successes and congratulate your families and your teachers for their roles in what you've accomplished here today. This is the 501st convocation of this university. I graduated exactly 50 years ago at the 63rd convocation of this university. So there have been 438 convocations since 1962, and only 63 in the first 75 years of this university. Now, that simply speaks to the enormous growth and development of this university in the last 50 years. But I remember being as proud as I believe you are today when I graduated 50 years ago. Let me make a couple of announcements. First of all, immediately following convocation, a reception will be held for humanities graduates and their guests in the Convention Center Wentworth rooms B and C, and the reception for arts and science program graduates and their guests will be at the University, McMaster University Convocation Hall, room 213 in University Hall at 7 p.m. this evening. Flowers that have been delivered for graduates will be available at the coat check in the main lobby. I'd ask you to please remain standing at your seats until the academic procession and the graduates have left the hall. I'd ask you now to please stand and join with me in the singing of our national anthem. After the singing of the anthem, this convocation stands adjourned.
Thank you.